Alright. I'm hoping this is working. Okay, it looks like we're live. Right, so you should be able to see my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen or not. Oh, here we go. Happening now. Alright. Go full screen there. Alright, so you should all be seeing my screen now. I think I've got it figured out, but we'll just give everybody time to connect up and join. And we should be able to, I think I've got comments on here if you want to leave a comment as well. Right. So it might be a little bit of a lag maybe. So make sure you got your coffee all freshly brewed, right? All right. So let's see what we've got here. Excuse me. Let me know if you see where the comments are. I can't even see where the comments are in this thing. Ah, I think I found them. All right. All right. Just give a few more people time to get connected up here. Some of you may be working. Ah, Doug, thanks, I found it. Hope everybody's doing good. I'm thinking everybody here in the US is either working from home right now, right? Quite a few of yous. I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to see if they can connect up to this thing, and then we'll go from there. But remember, this live will be recorded, so if you're in different time zones and you want to look at it, it'll be on my YouTube channel, and you'll see that all on the Facebook page there, right? And you can always jump over to radan.com, and also you can look up Radan on YouTube as well, and they have a bunch of videos. So we got Lee joining. Hey Lee, how are you this morning? Alright, I'm going to get started. People will probably join in on the way on this, but if not, this will be recorded and you'll be able to watch it at another day or another time. Okay, so first off, if you're new to my page or my channel or anything like that, you may not know who I am, so let me start there. My name is Dean and I work for Hexagon, and I help manufacturers with software solutions for the sheet metal industry. Hexagon provides a lot of other solutions. If you're in the chip cutting world, we've got milling and turning software. We actually have some verification software for your CNCs as well, right? I primarily work with the RADAN products and everything to do with sheet metal fabrication. Hang on, let me turn this off. Sorry about that. So everything to do with sheet metal fabrication, that's where you'll find me, right? So I wanted to jump on here. I know I've got a lot of customers and I've been talking to a lot of people. This is just a casual platform. This is where we can have a cup of coffee and just sit down and message each other on some questions you may have, or see what's out there and what's happening, right? So I know we've all been around sheet metal for a while or some other products, and we're all quoting from, probably a lot of you are probably quoting from spreadsheets. Well, now I used to do spreadsheets as well, but now it's nice to have software where you can just drag and drop stuff in and get a quote, and quickly, right? So what's a better way to see some of this stuff right now, because everybody's got COVID-19 going around, so it's nice to be able to come online and see something and say, that's interesting, let's take a look at that, but let's see what other people are doing out there, right? So as you can see, I've got Radquote open, and here we can quote sheet metal parts, we can do manual parts, we can do DXS, we can do 3D files. I'm going to show you a couple ways to do it. Here I'll come in and I'll start Radquote, and I'll go new, and I'll select my customer, right? So if we go Acme and hit OK, we'll be able to create a quote under this customer. Now there might be some lag, so it's probably catching up. Drop me a comment if it's not working well, because we can always change how things go. So now I'm at my customer. What I need to do is I need to quote a sheet metal part and drag something in here, right? So the way I do this is I come in here and I've got some 3D files. So if I click on this folder, I've got a 3D file here and I can bring it in. I'm just going to do a single file at the moment, right? So I've got a engine bracket here, which is a stat file. So in Radquote you can pull in Solidworks files, step files, IPT files, and other type of files, right? So here I'm just going to grab this guy and I'm just going to drop it on the screen here. It's going to open a dialog box, and I'm going to it's going to ask me a couple of questions, right? Because I need to enter in some material, and then I'll need to do some quantity of my part. So I'm actually going to go 10, and I'm going to hit OK, right? When that happens, it's going to use RADAN in the background to do the unfolding of this 3D file and turn it into a flat part or a blank. Right, so now we've got our blank. You can see that I've got a thumbnail here, and it's showing me my bend lines from that 3D, but it also shows me material, thickness, surface weight, gross weight, and some other indicators in there that I might find useful. But automatically it's applied material to my quote, to my part here. It's applied a laser operation, because I'm using a laser right now, but I can set up a default machine of which I want it to use, or I can simply right click on here and change to maybe a punching or maybe a water jet, some sort of machine like that. In here, it's because of the bend lines that come through on that 3D file, you can see it's applied some bending operations to it, right? So I don't have to go in there and say, oh, I need to add these bends. Okay. Another thing you can do is, if I wanted to, I can click on this bending operation, right? And we can go the setting. Okay, so maybe setting up this part here as medium, maybe bending difficulty is medium. It's already got the bend quantity. I'm using one tool set. If I want to use another tool set, I can add another one and hit OK. Right, and it's going to apply those. So that's going to change the cost of my part. Right, so here we're going to go and hit calculate. So I'm calculating this at the moment. The good thing about this, it's using RADAN in the background to do the nesting and getting some of the machine information that we entered into the nesting in the when we generate the NC code, right? And then it'll sync it all in here with Radquote, and you can see it's given me some numbers. This is how much your job's going to cost. right, and you can double click on this and you can see it gives me a breakdown, so I can break down the cost of this part. Okay, so that was pretty quick. I don't know if you guys are using spreadsheets now. I'm pretty sure it takes a little bit longer than that, right? Because you got to go get a drawing, get someone to create a nest, then punch the information in to a spreadsheet you've got, and the perimeter of the part, what you're doing, and enter all that information in. So instead of 5 minutes doing a quote, it's taking you probably half an hour to an hour to do a quote, right? So this is one way to do it. You can actually see it's breaking it down here, and I've got gas, total cost, and you'll notice I can change my strategies. Strategies is where if it's a thin metal part, I know some of you will probably cut it with nitrogen and get rid of the oxidization off the edge of the part, so you don't have to wire brush the edges of that part. So if you're powder coating, for an example, the powder coat's not going to chip off, right? So you can actually change which gas you're going to use on there and quote it, and it'll give you the right times and that. So okay, so there's one way to do a quote. From here I simply just hit report, and when I select my report, this is where I can go ahead and issue a quote for my customer, right? So in this, here's my quote, here's my report, and you can see I've got my engine bracket, I've got an image, I've got a quantity of 10, my unit price, and a total price. I can now issue this as a draft quote, or generate it as send it to a customer, email it to a customer, say here's the quote, bill, go ahead, and once we get it, we've got it. You have different reports. You can do a custom report, you can actually do a breakdown report. So if I select breakdown report, it's going to give me a breakdown that maybe I want to use for internal, right? And it gives me a breakdown of my bending, my laser, my material, any other operations you want to add there. So you may add drilling, you may add welding, you may add sanding, assembly, and it'll give you a breakdown on each of those variables, right, in that quote. And you can see here you can set up 30-day terms, everything you can for your customer. So Radquote has the ability to track these quotes and save them in Radquote. So you can say 6 months time you want to have a look at it and say how many jobs have I won, how many jobs have I lost, and get some information and some data from there. That's a good way to get going with Radquote, but we do have other options where you may want to get more data, right? You want to start scheduling and stuff like that. That's in one of our other products called Workplan. It's a ERP software, and you can track the schedule, and it ties in with the quoting, right? So you can quote your parts and then see the schedule of where everything is at. If you've got enough workload to do it or not enough workload, you can move it around. Okay, so I'm going to close that now. Let's go in and we can take a look at our material use tab. And when we look at our material use tab, we are looking at our engine bracket here. You can see I've got an image, I've got some information here, the method of nesting. I've got another tab over here, so this is the part, but I've got a nesting tab here. So if I hit nesting, it's going to show me how I've got my nest laid out. Just gives me a small thumbnail, and I can view how I've got my nest, how is it nesting. Okay, And there are some settings where you can change how you want it to nest in here as well. Clearances, stuff like that. Do you want to start nesting at the top end of the sheet and work backwards, or however? There are settings in there. Right. So now we've got that quote is done. I'm actually going to come in and do a new quote, and we'll go, let's do Blue Sun here as our customer. So that was one single 3D file. Now I want to do a whole assembly, right? So I've got an assembly here. Let me see where my folder is. So you can see I have another step file. So customer sends me a step file, and here's a 3D model of what I want built. This is what I need to build. I can grab this 3D file and I can just drag and drop in here into Radquote, sorry. And I can select material, and I can select how many of these assemblies I want to make. Right? So and RADAN will unfold it in the background and get these parts ready and unfold them so we can use them in Radquote. Alright, well that was quick. Imagine doing that with a spreadsheet, right? So let's go ahead. You can see here I've got a top level assembly. Everything is in this assembly. I can actually change that image. You can just right click and change it and put an image in there. At the moment I'm just going to leave it as that. And we've got all our parts. You can see it's added different operations. You can add other operations to it, grinding, assembly, right? You can put it up here, assembly on the main level. So now I'm just simply going to hit calculate. It's nesting in the background. Another thing, guys, is to remember that when you're nesting in here in Radquote, it's not taking a seed up of the programmers. So you no longer have to go and disturb the program and have them make 20 nests for you so you can quote a job, right? He can carry on working, doing his daily job, sticking with the schedule, and then we can come in here, a sales guy, administration person can go ahead and drag some quotes and do the quotes on here, and it'll figure out a lot of that stuff for you, right? Any questions, leave them below, and I'll try to answer them. So now we're at this stage. I've quoted my job. I've got all my pricing in here. Now I make a report, right? So realistically, if I was doing this in a spreadsheet for one of these parts, it's probably going to take me a good half a day, maybe a good 2-3 hours, right? So I've got my assembly. I can set it up how I want to do it. I can set it up as individual parts, but I'm actually just doing the whole assembly here. And there is our quote to go to our customer, and we're good to go. Right, I can now, I'll save this quote, save, and I have the ability to save it as issued or draft. I'm going to save it as a draft because I'm not going to issue that yet, because maybe I want to finesse that quote by adding hardware to that assembly, adding bars and tubes, right? So we've got bars and tubes in here. Maybe I need to add some bars or tubes to the assembly. Maybe I need to add some purchase parts, right? So where I want to maybe do some PEMs, right? I want to add some PEM nuts in there for bolting this assembly together, right? So there's a lot of stuff you can do here, and it's pretty quick, fast and easy. Now I'm going to go with the same customer I'm actually going to do a new quote, and we'll say John's called me on the phone and said, hey, I need to get a part, right? You guys have had pieces of tissue paper handed to you with a hand sketch on it with a couple of dimensions, right? This is the part